Lucy's Kitchen, it's Lucy's Kitchen. She's Lucy and she's got a kitchen. Lucy's Kitchen.
And now that we've got your attention, let's cook. Hi there. Welcome to Lucy's Kitchen. I'm Lucy, and this is my kitchen. Today we're going to make meatloaf. Meatloaf is an iconic American classic. Almost everybody has had meatloaf in their life. They either love it or they're a little tired of it because it's a very convenient dish to make. When I was growing up, lots of moms on the block made meatloaf, and people had meatloaf sometimes more than once a week. So they might have not liked it that much. Or the opposite happened. It became your absolute ultimate comfort food. Well, that's how it is for me. I adore it. My kids adore it. And my husband will adore it after he tastes it tonight. We're going to start with our ingredients. This meatloaf is filled with nutritious, delicious ingredients. Celery, carrots, onions, flat leaf Italian parsley, some sage. These are all ingredients that we chop, dice, or slice, or mince, and add to our meat. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the meat. Now, I'm using ground beef, and this is a very lean, high-quality ground beef. I like it to be lean because we're going to add a lot of delicious liquids to enhance the flavor of our meatloaf. So we don't want a lot of, extra juices coming out of the meat. It's lean and it's beautiful. It smells good, it smells fresh. That's what we're going to start with. Then we're going to add to that about a half a cup of our chopped green onions. I like green onions. Green onions have a marvelous savory bite, a little bit more fresh tasting and actually colorful than your usual, white onions. You can definitely use white onions. You can use any kind of onions, but I'm using green. I like them. They're easy, they're convenient, they're easy to chop, and that's that. I've got some diced celery. I love celery, especially when it's really fresh, and I just bought this yesterday, so it is just crisp and delicious. And then I've grated some carrots. Now this is about, a cup of carrot maybe. All of these ingredients are approximate. You're going to put in a little carrot and a little more carrot and a little less onion. It's up to you. Whatever you happen to have around is probably just fine. And really, it's about equal amounts of all these three ingredients. But if you have a little bit more of one and a little bit less of the other, it's okay. It will still be delicious. So this is our basic meatloaf. Now, to this, we're going to add, no, not breadcrumbs, oatmeal. This is old-fashioned oatmeal. This is uncooked, old-fashioned oats. And these are great because they give it some substance and they also absorb the liquid. So they make it nice and fluffy. We're going to put in our oatmeal. And to that, we're going to add a couple of eggs. Now, we could just beat these eggs, but you don't even have to do that. You could just dump them right in. Now, here's my secret ingredient. It's a good tablespoon of organic tomato paste. You can use any kind of tomato paste. It doesn't have to be organic, but you just give it a good squeeze. That's about a tablespoon of tomato paste. It gives it a bit of richness that nothing else quite, has the same flavor. So that's why I like using it. And I'm going to use a half a cup of my very favorite barbecue sauce. Now, I love Kansas City barbecue, so that's my favorite, but you can use any barbecue sauce of any kind that you would like. And we just mix that right in. So far, this thing looks really good. It's got all kinds of delicious components, and it's going to be really a meal unto itself. Next, some sour cream. Now, I'd like to put in a little sour cream. Again, it gives it a mellow richness, and it's quite tasty. But you don't have to put in sour cream. You could also just put in some, maybe a little bit of broth, or you could use some tomato sauce, or about, I don't know, half a cup of cream or milk, and it would do the same job. We need it for some of the moisture, but we also want it for flavor and the richness. So then my ingredient of chopped parsley. Chopped parsley. So good. So fresh and so good. And some chopped fresh sage. Beautiful. And now salt and pepper. And we're going to put in some because we have to have some salt and pepper. And some of these ingredients have their own seasonings. For example, the barbecue sauce already has some seasoning in it. So I'm just going to put in a teaspoon of salt. And I judge that not so much by this total melange of ingredients, but also by thinking about 1 teaspoon per pound of meat is usually a pretty good amount to kind of keep in the back of your mind. So to this, now we've got all of our ingredients in here, and now we just have to mix it up. So you could do it with this. I've also seen lately this really cool tool that you just use as a chopper, but I'm just going to mix it and take my time so it mixes nicely. What is meatloaf? It's basically a solid loaf of bolognese sauce, or, you know, a Greek kofta, which is the little Greek seasoned meatballs. And it's just made in a loaf instead of little individual patties. So once you have this down, you can really vary it so much. You can put oregano in here, and you can put some Greek seasonings. You can put garlic in here if you want. And you can replace the barbecue sauce with salsa and make it taste more South American, south of the border, meatloaf. So you really, and in fact, if you do that, instead of using parsley, use cilantro. You're going to have a wonderful dish, and each one of your meatloaves will be different. And so it looks like we've got a pretty good mix here. Just going to mix it a little bit more. You want it to sort of start sticking together. And unlike burgers, where you're just going to do the patty and you don't want to mix it too much so it doesn't get tough, we do want to mix this a lot. We want to make sure it's really mixed. Okay, that was super easy. Now I've got my loaf pan. So I'm going to put a little olive oil into the bottom of my loaf pan, just maybe a teaspoon, and I'm going to use a brush to brush the sides. This is because we're using a lean cut of meat, so I do not want it to stick to the pan, so that later on, if we want to, we can lift it out and serve it on a platter or on a board. And then we can take our beautiful meatloaf. Now, I'm looking at this just to make sure that it's evenly mixed. And as far as I can see, there doesn't seem to be any part of it that isn't nicely mixed. So I think we can go ahead and put it into our pan. And so what you could just do is dump it right in. Okay. And then take your little spatula and evenly push it down into your pan. Now you can just tell by looking that this is going to be awesome. And that's it. So we're going to bake this, and about halfway through baking, I'm going to brush the top of this with a 1/4 cup more of barbecue sauce. And that's going to give us a nice glaze. So I'm going to go ahead and bake this, and we can check on it in a little while. All right, our beautiful meatloaf is done. I tested it about halfway through the cooking, and what I was looking for was how firm it had become. All you'd need to do is really just kind of touch it, and you can tell whether it's cooking all the way through. The middle was kind of soft, so I knew it needed more cooking time. But the edges were pretty much done. So I brushed it with barbecue sauce and put it back in the oven for another 15 to 20 minutes. And then I let it cool off in the pan. And now I'm going to serve it just right out of the pan, just like my mother did when I was growing up. This is going to be perfect, I can just tell. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Well, our meatloaf is ready to be tasted. Now, if I were serving this to anybody, I would probably make some mashed potatoes and maybe some fresh peas and have an incredible home-cooked, really comfort food kind of meal. And I can tell just by looking at it, it's going to be delicious. So it's very moist and it's beautiful. I can see the vegetables in there. It's delicious. Nom, 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 nom. So I can taste all the vegetables. I can get a little bit of crunch of celery. You can definitely sense the onion. It's not overwhelming. It's perfect. The barbecue sauce, of course, gives it that sweetness, that smokiness, and it's really the oatmeal is the secret ingredient that is the most wonderful here, because it just makes it light and fluffy and not dense and dry. It's very moist. It's super delicious, great comfort food dish, and something that everybody should know how to make a good meatloaf. And here it is. I hope you'll give it a try. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us at Lucy's Kitchen. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come back next time when we share more delicious recipes from my kitchen to yours.